Hi everyone, today I want to talk about ways to improve and make the Fortnite map more competitive. I highlighted POIs in red and lesser areas that still have loot in blue. And I think that the more places there are to land for players, it reduces the chances of RNG-based fights at the very beginning of games, which can be bad for competitive play. There's also a lot of open and wasted space that could be used to improve competitive Fortnite, such as in this northern area of the map, as well as where the old soccer stadium or broken houses used to be. Nobody ever complained that they were there, except that they were removed, and Epic didn't really do anything about it. There could also be more POIs added between Snobby and Haunted Hills, as well as down here in this area, because if you look on the right side of the map, there's an even distribution of POIs, while the left side doesn't have as much. So in a competitive game, people would probably favor being on the right side a lot more than the left. So you want to kind of evenly distribute locations and give equal incentive to be on either side. And you could also add locations more to fill up all this space with all these blue dots, which are like kind of the poverty locations, right? Because you have paradise and then all this open space that could be potentially adding another POI, kind of like that jail cell, that little square jail that used to be there, where there's a lot of incentive to actually even land there and get loot. So I think something can be done with this space over here. And I have issues with lazy links because the thing about lazy links is it was originally designed to introduce golfing and like all the golf carts, and all the area around it is just like a golf field, which really isn't for competitive Fortnite. Lazy links should definitely be designed with a competitive nature in mind if they want to promote competitive Fortnite. And they can keep the main POI, but they really need to fill up all that golf field space, which provides no incentive to be there. And the same with the racetrack here. Like, nobody's gonna want to go racing in competitive Fortnite. They just want to get loot, and that open space of just a racetrack is kind of unnecessary. And there's also like the nightclub down at the factories here, which like it makes unnecessary sound, which can take away from the nature of the game. And also with Loot Lake, how they designed Loot Lake is just a bunch of like rocks here and there, and there's just no materials. So it's kind of like compared to if you made a competitive CS map where it's just a bunch of rock bumps and pools of water everywhere. Like there's no competitive nature to it. There's no like materials that you could potentially farm or buildings that you can loot. But like I do realize that there are buildings at the north and the west point. There should be at least something at the south and eastern part of Loot Lake. So another thing is dead space on the map, which I highlighted in black. Dead space are areas which give absolutely no incentive to go to and make rotations more linear. So ideally you wouldn't want to be spending time moving around the map in these areas because there's nothing to gain or loot from being in there. So like if you're leaving lazy links, you're going to have to travel a very far distance to other locations that potentially have loot, where in more centralized areas like Divot, no matter where you go, you're only traveling a short distance to gain anything. It's like whether it's materials or loot, it's just a short travel distance, whereas in some locations you're going to have to travel a lot further, which I'm not personally a fan of. And like you can see this with Junk Junction, like you have to travel a very far distance to when making rotations, and there's no real benefit from changing up where you want to go. Another thing I want to talk about in the structure of the maps are the bridges, which I highlighted in yellow. Like everybody knows that in terms of the river along the map, it's very low ground, and it's somewhere that you don't really want to be because you're just gonna get shot up, and no one's really gonna be happy about being there. And we know on the map that there are these 3 bridges along the river. It would be more competitive if there was an even distribution of bridges. I don't know how many, but like this entire area doesn't have any bridges. So if you were to make a rotation out of this area, you could go through the bridge and you could potentially find loot there. There's incentive to make rotations across these bridges. But in the center of the map, there's no bridges, so all you're doing is walking through empty space. So potentially there could be bridges added along the river that make crossing it more safe, and the bridges provide incentive for where to go instead of just mindlessly running across the map. So with planes, they definitely need to be taken out of the map because they can make the distribution of players in the game uneven, because people on the planes can travel to places that they shouldn't be able to get to. So let's say someone takes a plane and they bring it all the way over to the right side of the map. And if enough players do this, that makes that this side of the map has an uneven amount of players, where typically players can expect a certain amount of people, but with an added plane, it adds like way too many people on one side, which can really take away from the competitive nature of Fortnite. So realistically, Fortnite should have its own competitive map design with these planes taken away, as well as added locations that make everything evenly distributed and making rotations more dynamic. And this can be compared to League of Legends, which originally started as a casual game, but they made small changes to it that made the game eventually both fun casually as well as being structured for competitive play. And so I hope this video provides insight on how we can change the map design for Fortnite to make it more custom for competitive play. And if anyone has any suggestions, feel free to let me know, and I would love to discuss with everyone how we can change Fortnite's map for competitive play. Thanks for watching.